Welcome back. Got another project going for today. It is a Kato SD90 43 Mac in the Canadian Pacific scheme. Um, Got to admit, I kind of bought it mostly because of the color, and I had a low amount of EMD engines at the time. I love black and red. That's my two favorite colors, and I wanted at least one Canadian Pacific engine. So this kind of fits that. I mean, everybody needs at least one good beaver. You know, story of my life. Anyways, went with another Loksound installation with this one. So this is the decoder that I went with. Same one as the Conrail, or same style as the Conrail I previously did. And here it is right up top. So it fits in there pretty nicely. The Katos always have this 8-pin connector on them, so putting DCC in here is about as easy as it gets. Literally the only soldering I had to do was for the speaker there. Kind of just wrap the wire up and used a small piece of Kapton tape there over the front of it. Keeps it secure and in place. Clearance wise, it doesn't really add a whole lot, so it fits in there pretty nicely. These already have built-in LED lighting on them from the factory, so that's pretty nice. You could probably wire up brighter bulbs, but I'm not really going to mess with that. As far as the speaker wiring, just kind of routed it over here, and the reason I did that is you don't want to just go straight over the middle, because there's a piece of light piping that actually hits right there, which is kind of like right here. So you need some clearance there for that. And then for the speaker, I went with a Zemo speaker. I've actually used these in a couple of my engines. Basically, this install is almost identical to an 80 Mac that I did a couple of weeks ago, or months ago actually. This is the speaker. It's a Zemo. You can get these at, like, Model Train stuff has these. They're around, I think, $10. Given the amount of space that I had inside the shell here, which is basically back here, that's why I went with that. So it just kind of sits up in there very nicely. For as small as it is, it actually does have quite a bit of sound to it. It's actually pretty impressive, and you'll see that here in a bit as soon as we fire it up. So, pretty easy installation overall. Took me most of the time that is spent on these is, as with most Katos, is putting on all these annoying detail parts, all the little ladders and all these little tiny details there. From the factory, they just don't put those on. So, I mean, you pretty much have to do them yourself. The wipers are probably almost the worst part of it. I dropped one on my floor, which I have carpet, so that was pretty fun trying to find that little piece. Overall, this is about exactly the same as an 80 Mac, which, you know, those are made in a number of paint schemes. Obviously this is a different engine, but from a model perspective, the chassis is exactly the same as the 80 Mac that they make. So I mean, it's going to run pretty much exactly the same. It's just going to sound a little bit different because it's a 16 cylinder, so as opposed to the 20 cylinder that's in the 80 Mac. In my 80 Mac, I pulled 53 cars with it, just with a single locomotive, so pulling power on this one's going to be pretty awesome as well. Not that I really ever run one engine at a time, but I mean, if you have one of these, you can pretty much haul anything. I got this for a steal, I think around $100 or so. So I actually spent about as much on the electronics as what I did in the engine. But anytime that you have a Kato, it's a quality piece, so it's worth every penny. So it's definitely worth putting sound in and, you know, basically getting it as good as what it can be. So enough about all the insides here. I'm going to button it up and then do some test runs here and go through all the sounds and functions, and you'll be able to see how awesome these are in slow speed, and why we always say runs like a Kato, or the drives is not as smooth or is smooth as a Kato, and you'll see why here in a moment. Well, I thought I was done, but actually I'm not. So I had it all together and I was taking a look at it, and there's actually some light bleed through on the little front cab door, which I don't like, so I'm going to block that out. Also, primarily the bulb. It's lit here, and you can see in the front the ditch lights are lit, barely. It's actually a lot duller in person. The camera kind of makes it look a lot brighter. So what I did was just simply cut off the old one and replace the rear one with a NCE bulb. It's a little bit bigger. Also, the color is wrong on these. They're pure white. There should be like kind of a little bit of a yellowish tinge to them to be more realistic. So I'll flip it to the rear one here and you'll see the difference. Not only is it way brighter, but it's also the proper color. So I'm going to do the same thing here on the front. We're just going to chop off the old one and just solder on a new one. That's really all there is to it. On my LEDs, which are actually NCE LEDs, looking at the bulb, the flag side is the negative side. On these, it's on the factory Kato ones, they kind of look the same. I happened to guess correctly the first time. So since the Kato board already has resistors on it, you don't even really need to even put those in there. So pretty much just a simple cut and solder job. So I'm going to finish up the other one here and then put the shell back on again, and I'll have a before and after picture as well. Alright, so just finished putting everything back together again. Got the LED switched over. I really think it was worth the extra time and effort fixing those because it looks 10 times better now with those in there. So let's start it up. And we'll go through a couple of the functions here. And we'll notch it up here. Really screams. Alright, so we'll move it forward just a little bit here, and you'll be able to see just how awesome the slow speed capability is. Doesn't get any smoother than that. Check out those LEDs. Looks great.